Man, do I love Nintendo's handheld consoles. They have brought me some of the most joy I've ever had in gaming and have even led to me developing a collection for my favorite console of all time, the Nintendo 3DS. But what if these handheld consoles were in different colors? Several decades ago, Nintendo made the groundbreaking decision to start selling alternate variants of their most popular handheld consoles. While at first they started out as giveaways, or maybe the occasional bundle, they had evolved to be excellent ways to showcase your own personal interests and personality. For a collector such as myself, I want to own the ones that I think are the coolest, and that led me down a rabbit hole of research, finding some of the best looking and rarest handhelds that Nintendo's ever offered, and I want to share them all with you today. Nintendo's first handheld didn't have too many alternate variants. With how shaky the video game market was after just recovering, I don't blame them for wanting to play it safe, but that doesn't mean there were none. Being an absolute baller, one of the consoles that drew my eye is the 1991 NBA All-Star Game Boy. Nintendo hadn't gotten to their peak in creativity, so this console is basically just the standard gray Game Boy, but it has the NBA logo in the bottom left corner and some broadcasting network logos in the center. This is widely considered to be one of the rarest Game Boy consoles out there. Not only because it was bundled with the 1991 NBA All-Stars game, but the fact that this was only distributed to executives behind the advertising for the game. Wow, can't even bless the developers or maybe the players who star on the game's cover? Like, I get that Charles Barkley doesn't seem like a gamer and all, but still. Now for another Game Boy that's just as rare and even more creative. The Jacob's Biscuits Kirby's Pinball Sweepstakes Bundle. This was distributed in a limited raffle held by the English food manufacturer Jacob's Bakery, in which customers would find a raffle card in their product and figure out their prize using a special 3D layer in the wrapper. While there were several Kirby-themed prizes in this raffle, a shirt limited to 400 and a poster limited to 750, the rarest item was the pink Kirby-themed Game Boy, that there are only 25 of in the whole world. This is also one of the rarest Game Boys ever, and why wouldn't it be? Just look at how pink and how Kirby it is. Nintendo's next console is where they really started to ramp up production. While I could talk about all the different colors of Game Boy Colors that Nintendo made to further the marketing that this thing showed color, I'm going to bring up quite possibly the coolest one in the entire lineup of Game Boy Colors. And that's the Ocarina of Time Game Boy Color. This was released by a special raffle through Club Nintendo Germany in 1999. There are two confirmed versions of this console with a rumored third one that there is zero information of online. You have the all-black one with an airbrush of Adult Link from Ocarina of Time on it, and the game's logo in all gold. Nintendo would carry on this black and gold aesthetic for a lot more of their Zelda-themed consoles later down the line, so it's interesting to see where it started. But the rarer version is the exact same console, this time with a marble design. Just look at it, it looks like someone ripped this straight out from my kitchen counter. While it's missing the gold logo that stood out so much in the black variant, there's just something about this one that draws me in. For all these handhelds, I'm surprised there hasn't been one for the biggest handheld franchise in the world, Pokemon. Well, dear viewer, now we're getting into Pokemon Central with the Japanese Pokemon Center Game Boy Advance consoles. These were all available for a limited time when their respective movies came out in the early 2000s. While they aren't necessarily rare, they certainly stand out, and I can see them fetching a hefty price today. First up, we have the Celebi variant. This one's probably the cheapest, and it's no surprise since, look at it, they chose a pretty dull color for this thing. While I do like how Celebi borders the bottom of the screen, it doesn't do enough to really be desirable. Next is the Suicune variant. Similar to the Celebi console, they chose a washed out bluish silver looking color, but with how vibrant Suicune is, they missed out by not making it a brighter blue with purple and white accents. They didn't even include Suicune at the bottom. So how is the average person going to know this isn't just some general Pokemon themed console? Now here's a console where it makes sense to have Pikachu at the bottom, the adequately named Pikachu Game Boy Advance. This has a really nice front gold cover, with an even brighter gold adorning the bottom of the screen with silhouettes of Pikachu and Pichu. This variant was also released at the Pokemon Center in New York, so while it might not be the rarest, it certainly looks good. And now for the one that's my personal favorite, the Latios and Latias Game Boy Advance. This is how you do a limited time console. Just look at how vibrant these colors are. A bright metallic blue on the front side and a more relaxed red on the back. And look, they actually have the Pokemon being advertised on the console. This thing just looks so clean. And while the colors don't accurately match up with the colors on Latios and Latias, the point still gets conveyed just as effectively. The redesign of the Game Boy Advance would end up having a lot more unique and iconic variants, and nowhere is that more apparent than in the Pokemon Center exclusives. Now, there are a bunch of these, so I'll just go through them rapid fire. You had the really neat Groudon and Kyogre consoles released in 2003 that were sold in a few different ways, either just by themselves or in a bundle. These are really nice red and blue GBA SPs, with a nice line art of their respective legendaries on the front of the console. In that same vein, you have the Rayquaza variant. This is a beautiful emerald color and has a silhouette of Rayquaza on the face. This one seems to be a lot more common, which is a good thing since it looks so cool and I want it. Next are the Charizard and Venusaur variants. These have some really unique colors and some simple white line art of their respective starters on the face of the console. They were sold in the US and a lot of them are floating around today. And then there's the worst one, the Torchic colorway. Don't get me wrong, it's a very interesting shade of orange and I love the whole Torchic line in Pokemon, but there's nothing other than the box that indicates this is for Torchic. Now, it wouldn't be right to leave out the mascot of the company, the Pikachu variant. This started the trend of just plastering Pikachu's face on a console and calling it a day. These were sold both in Japan and in the US at specific retailers. Do I like it? Yeah, it's alright. Would I own it? No, there are better ones in my opinion. And one of those better ones is the Legend of Zelda Minish Cap Game Boy Advance SP. This was given out only through Club Nintendo, and there are only 300 of them in the world. Bundled alongside the console was a fancy box that'd make an awesome display piece, a t-shirt, a beanie, and of course, a certificate, numbered to 300. The console itself is primarily gold, but what's that? Black accents, wow, I couldn't imagine a Zelda console being black and gold. An even better Minish Cap console is the 24-karat gold Nintendo Game Boy Advance SP. This was released through a raffle in which you'd search for golden tickets within the Minish Cap game packs. There are only 7 confirmed in the entire world, and only recently have pictures sprung up online. They're extremely expensive, of course, with one asking for $80,000 online. It would be a real treat for more info about these elusive variants to come out, since there aren't really many gold consoles out there. Now it's time for my era, the arguably best era of Nintendo handhelds, the Nintendo DS and DS Lite. Everybody had one, even my friends who weren't really into video games had a DS. With it being the second highest selling console of all time, Nintendo had to have made some good ones, right? First up, we have the limited edition Animal Crossing Wild World variants. While it looks like someone just drew on these, they were actually won through a raffle. These were distributed by Bergsala, Nintendo's Swedish distributor, in a contest where the winners would not only win these consoles, but also be in the game. There are 4 of these known to exist. One for the spring season featuring some lovely pink flower petals, a summer variant where the character is holding up an apple, a fall variant with a nice blend of oranges and pinks, and a winter variant featuring a little snowman. Since my personal favorite season is winter, I'm a bit biased towards the winter variant, although I wish the snow on the ground extended all the way to the borders instead of just being contained within a little circle in the middle. Another neat console is this Bleach Nintendo DS, made to commemorate the release of the DS game Bleach, The Blade of Fate. Apparently, within copies of the game, customers could send in an application to potentially win this console. Only 50 people were chosen to win, making this one of the rarer DS consoles. And what a shame that is. Look at how clean this looks. The line shading to emulate how it appears on the manga, and look, they even have Kon on the inside of the console. Now for some more Nintendo-themed consoles. In 2006, the Nintendo store in New York had a service where you could buy a DS, and then they would engrave the face of it with a character you wanted, for $20. They had Kirby on this beautiful pink console, Bowser from Paper Mario, a Metroid Prime engraving which has a lot more detail than the others, a 2006 E3 logo exclusive to the Nintendo VIP party, and a bunch more. While these aren't exclusive in the same way as the others on this list, they're still a neat concept that couldn't really be replicated since Nintendo would change the material their handhelds were made with later down the line. Nintendo's next handheld is where the idea of console skins started to gain a lot of traction. For these, you just stick them on over your DS Lite, but I'm not here to talk about any of those, since theoretically, anything could be a console skin. The rarest and prettiest consoles are by far the bedazzled DS Lites done by Swarovski. There were a bunch of these, with every design being unique and exclusive to the Nintendo World Store in New York. You got the Toon Link, Mario, and Baby Mario plus Yoshi ones, the new Super Mario Bros. One which has a lovely blue and purple added to it, and then you have the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl bedazzled consoles. These seem the most fitting because of their namesake, but all of these are incredibly rare and would probably fetch a high price. I mean, this one listing online is asking for $100,000. Crazy. Next up, we have the Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars DS Lite. These were given out at a launch party for the game in 2009 in 4 different variants. What's craziest about these things is that I couldn't fathom how Nintendo allowed a firearm to be on the face of their flagship console. That would not slide a day. They also seem to have come bundled with these styluses shaped like chopsticks, a neat little novelty. It'd be idiotic for me not to mention the numerous Pokemon DS and DSi consoles that were released. There are a bunch made for every Pokemon World Championship that all have some really neat designs. The most well-known of these being the 2009 Pokemon World Championship DSi console given out to those in the video game tournament and the trading card tournament. The design on this one in particular is really clean. Not only does it have a beautiful blue color, but it has a water theming since the tournament was being held in San Diego that year. Probably the most famous rare console is none other than the McDonald's DSi. There have been numerous videos about this thing and the game that came bundled with it, so I gotta mention Nick Robinson for putting this thing on the map. This DSi was given to employees of McDonald's in Japan for training. It came bundled with the E-Crew development program to help show new trainees all there is to learn when working at McDonald's. Being a massive chain and all, there's no telling how many of these things exist today. And now we move on to the soon-to-be-deceased Nintendo 3DS family of systems. Nintendo just announced how they'll be shutting down the online services for the family of systems in April, so I can only assume these consoles are going to raise in price afterwards. Starting off with the one that cost me a boatload of money, the Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater 3D 3DS. This console was available in Japan alongside the release of Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater 3D, and since I love that game so much, I had to hunt down one of these complete in-box consoles. This is one of the more creative consoles on the list, adding a snakeskin texture to the top of the console to go alongside the game, making this 3DS great for exfoliating. It seems customers also had the option to purchase an accessories set that included a really cool pouch for your console and its games, a really long stylus, and a shell for the console. But why would you ever want to cover it up? Also available outside of the US, there's the Club Nintendo Mario, Peach, and Toad variants. These were given out to Club Nintendo members in the EU and Australia through a raffle, and can I just say, these things are beautiful. It helps that the material the original 3DS was made of is timeless, but with the Mario and Toad designs, it looks as if these were meant to be mainstay consoles. This next console I could have gotten recently, but elected not to, and I deeply regret it now. The Legend of Zelda 25th Anniversary Nintendo 3DS. Hey look, there's the black and gold design. Obviously, this was released for the series' 25th anniversary, and came bundled with Ocarina of Time 3D. Just look at how beautiful this thing is. gold accents for the text, 3D sliders, and the top of the back, all with an amazing design on the front showing the Hylian crest and Ocarina of Time, as well as Sheik's harp in the corners. This thing just looks too good to be real, but thankfully there are a lot of them out there, so I'll get one someday. While the 3DS XL had a lot of different variants, none of them were really rare or stood out to me. But I will say the Link Between Worlds, Mario and Luigi Dream Team, and the One Piece consoles are the best. Now for the new 3DS. The new 3DS itself didn't have any crazy designs, it was the faceplates that made them special. Nintendo made it so that you could customize your console whenever you wanted by popping up the current faceplates and putting in new ones. While there are some really neat and rare faceplates out there, I'm not here to talk about those, so maybe next time, new 3DS. The new 3DS XL, however, is my baby. I love this thing and want all the exclusive variants out there. But the only one I'm gonna bring up is the Galaxy colorway. Why? Because I own it, of course. This one isn't really rare at all, but it certainly stands out when being put up against this. A beautiful purple Galaxy design with a cobalt interior really helps this stand out from the rest of the monocolor consoles. Huh, that's weird. We haven't talked about Pokemon in a while. Say hello to the Pokemon Red, Yellow, Blue, and Green Nintendo 2DSs. These came out, of course, not in the US, around the time when the Generation 1 Pokemon games were released on the eShop. These consoles bring back the translucent plastic common from the late 90s to early 2000s, and had their respective Pokemon games pre-installed. I only wish these were released inside the US, since the translucent plastic mixed with the colorful buttons would have made kid me very happy. The 2DS XL has one variant that my buddy Nick's Level always likes to bring up and brag about, the Hylian Shield Nintendo 2DS XL. This is different from a lot of the other consoles I've mentioned up until this point, since this console has the Hylian Shield design jutting up from the plastic of the face. While the Pokeball, Minecraft, and Pikachu variants all do similar things, none of them really do it for me like this one does. And now for Nintendo's latest console variant that comes out at the start of November. It's the Alola editions of the Nintendo Switch Lite. These Alola editions come in teal for Timmy and Tommy, and pink for Isabelle with leaf decals all alongside the back of it. I like these a lot, since they use nice colors and I like Animal Crossing. Well, these are all the consoles that interested me. I know there are a ton of them out there, and there are probably some that are more deserving of a place in this video, but I mainly chose the ones I like. If you have any of these, or any other unique console variants I may not have mentioned in this video, let me know down in the comments. I also just set up a Discord server, so if you wanted, you could even show off your console here. I'd love to see it. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for my next video. I'm gonna go rethink some of my spending decisions now.